I'm Mark Babbitt, CEO and founder of U-Turn, and you are watching Eye on Business.
Well, hello everybody. This is Dave Berkus for the Berkus Report on EyeOnBusiness. Each time we meet, I have a chance to tell you stories of entrepreneurs who have made it very big or entrepreneurs who have crashed and burned, and the lessons that we've learned as a result. I've made 137 investments, and I've been on 40 boards, and I sure have seen these stories over time. And in fact, I like to say, tell me a good story, the kind I'm going to tell you today, because you and I do have a short attention span. These come from the books, Berkonomics, the 3 books in the series that I've written, and there are over 300 of those. So let's tell a story. I belong to a group called the Tech Coast Angels, and the Tech Coast Angels organized in 1998. And the first thing they wanted to do was to help the businesses that they financed. And so we financed a business called 1-800-Flowers. What a great business. It cost us over $1 million just to buy the name. And 4 of our members, not me, I'm happy to say, I guess, went into or onto the board for the company. The entrepreneur was very cooperative, very pliant, and very coachable. The problem was, as the company grew in one city, the 4 board members told the entrepreneur they wanted him to expand quickly into 4 other cities. He did, the company did, and the company quickly ran out of cash, wasn't able to keep up with the kinds of expenses before demand was made. And what I learned from that was the board was trying to talk to the employees and the CEO and direct, rather than listen, help, cooperate, and make the company grow along with the CEO. The lesson that I learned that came out of that you see from the slide that came on a moment ago, is be sure, if you're a board member, or you have board members, that the board members keep their noses in and their fingers out, so that the board members advise the CEO but never reach beyond, and the CEO helps the board with the making of the final decision. It is not just the board absent the CEO, a very big thing to know. Next, I want you to meet Steve Street. Steve Street is the founder and still the CEO of Green Dot Corporation. You might recognize the Green Dot card. But Steve came to the Tech Coast Angels, same group, again, back in the year 2000. In fact, right before the crash, the tech crash of the year 2000, and he had an idea. His idea was he needed to have a card, like a credit card, but not quite, for people that didn't have bank accounts or credit cards to buy things on the internet. And Steve's point was, if he had that card, he could therefore be a company that helped people to buy those things. Well, Green Dot was formed. I financed it along with some of my friends from Tech Coast Angels. I was the largest investor, which is a good thing to say. And what it turned out to be was the Green Dot card, now available in 100,000 stores in the U.S. alone, and it is the banking system of the for the unbankable, people that don't have bank accounts, that don't have credit cards. The very thing he was trying to solve for a limited purpose has become the solution for the banking industry for debit. It was the very first debit card, and now it does, as the largest debit card company on earth, manage for many of the other banks as well. Well, there's a lesson there. And the lesson is a really easy one for me to see, and that is management quality trumps a quality plan. What was his original plan? Rather small. What was his final plan? Take over the earth and being the debit card company of the world. I made, and my friends made, 110 times our money on that investment. It certainly was something to know that management company trumps a plan. Well, here's an advertisement for the company that I ran that you saw me talking about once before, when we had an opportunity to sell the company. And I discovered when I sold it that there were 3 kinds of business buyers, and I want to kind of teach that to you in a few seconds. There is the financial buyer that pays money based upon just the returns on investment. There is the strategic buyer that pays money based upon what the company will add to the buyer's ability to sell, to produce, whatever it is. What I discovered in my sale was a new kind of buyer that I'd never seen before, and it was the emotional buyer. The buyer that needed my company, and I didn't know why at the time, I learned later, but would pay almost anything reasonable to get the company at that moment in time. And so we sold the company at, you see, 1,000 times our invested amount, an amazing number, and we sold it all by March 31st of the year in which it had to close. I wasn't quite sure why they pushed to close it before the end of the quarter. I later found out that this hardware company needed our software company to keep them from reducing their gross income for the first time ever, and they had 24 other software companies all losing money. We were the only one, if they could buy us in time, that would be a money maker. Turns out, by the way, over the years, that our business was the only survivor for this public company. It sold off its hardware business, it sold off or closed the other 24 businesses, and left ours. Well, there's another interesting lesson I learned from that sale, even though we made a very lot of money from it. And that lesson is, timing is everything in a sale. We did sell at the end of March. And by the way, the recession of 1990, when this happened, began within just weeks after that and continued to accelerate. The amount of money that we were making and generating at that moment in time never was again achieved by that business, even though it was the lead business for the purchasing company. Timing is everything in a sale. Next one is a quick story that when we sold that company, I took with me two of the executives and created a brand new business that created cell phones in hotel rooms. Remember way back when, for those of you who are old enough, that cell phones used to be analog and you could not take a cell phone from Los Angeles to New York without paying over $1 a minute to be able to use that cell phone? Well, during those days, this was a great idea. So we put a cell phone in every room of the 4- and 5-star hotels that would lease the system from us, including the Waldorf Astoria, many Ritz-Carltons, the L'Ermitage, lots of other very high-quality hotels. And everything was fine until, here we go again, here is a full page or a partially full page ad in the newspapers for the first time announcing digital telephones. And by the way, the digital telephones were being offered with roaming plans at only $40 a month. So our customers, the hotels, suddenly saw that those minutes that were being used through the hotel systems dried up completely as people brought their own telephones cross country. You did, I did, and the industry was gone. And so we took back all of those telephone switches that we had sold, all the hundreds and hundreds of telephones and chargers and batteries that we sold, and the company went broke. And in fact, it went broke and I lost over $1.2 million on that sale. I want to ask a question from my own experience on this one. Isn't there somebody somewhere, maybe 10,000 somebody somewhere in the United States who knew that digital phones were coming before we spent all that money on analog telephones and this new device? Of course. So what is the lesson? Know your market before committing resources. Know the market. And that means all of us understand you can lose a lot of money for not knowing the market. We did. Another story is a good one that's just happening right now. I discovered this on a tour, a speaking tour, in Oklahoma City, of all places. It's a business that is the best described as the Uber of investigations. The company is called We Go Look. The company is growing at something like 20% a month by just having, right now, over 26,000 people around the country that they call lookers, who will take pictures of cars when there's an accident for State Farm insurance. They'll take a picture of the accident, avoiding having to have an insurance person come out all over the country when the insurance company doesn't have to anymore. Here's a company that is growing so very fast. And the lesson that I've learned as I invested in that company and think that there's something to it, find yourself the teacher customer. In their case, they found two. They found State Farm Insurance that taught them it was better to be able to use these things as outsourced people. That is, the Uber of investigations. Or if you find yourself a teacher customer like they did with eBay, who now has a tab on eBay Motors so that these cars that you're looking at on eBay can be investigated in the same way. What a great thing to do. Find yourself your teacher customer. Let your customer draw you into why your product or service is necessary for them. So now we get down to something where I've given this story before, and I'll do it abbreviated right now. The year was 1995, and I received this letter from a former employee. You saw the letter disappear from the screen, and it did purposely, because the letter, which I have memorized, an email that I received at that time, was from my former chief programmer who left me in 1990 and became, well, let me read the first sentence of the letter from the memory that I have of it. Hello again, Dave. I'm employee number 7 at a Seattle-based retail internet startup called Amazon.com. It was Tom Schonoff, my close friend and former chief programmer who left me and showed up 5 years later as the head of marketing for Jeff Bezos. Well, he went on to say at the end of the letter, if I had the $100,000 that Jeff is seeking for his second angel round of financing, I would do it. And I know you would do it, Dave. You're in the business. Can I introduce you to him? I know he'll take your money. And I wrote Tom back, knowing that I like to invest near my own home in Los Angeles. And I said to him, quote, "Gee, Tom, good to hear from you. Keep me informed." Well, that would be the end of the story if I let it be the end of the story. And I've had told that story many times. And the moral of that story is some will get away. And I missed 660 times my money in just 2 years to the public offering. But it turns out that there's more to the story than that. And I've never told this before, but here it comes. There's that same letter again. As I told this story to a organized group about a year ago, here goes that letter disappearing again from the screen. They looked at their screen and they said, what would have happened if you had held on to that Amazon stock and not sold it at their public offering at 660x? What happens if you held on to it until yesterday? And so they did the calculation. And I'm going to tell you now that if I held on to that stock till yesterday from 1995 when I could have bought it, I would have had $1,850,000,000 out of that $100,000 investment, or 39,000x. There's a lesson there. We can all laugh, but the lesson really is one where you have to laugh sometimes, where you can smile at your successes, and we've seen a few here, but you have to laugh at your failure, because there is no way you get through life if you can't do something like that. This is Dave Berkus for EyeOnBusiness for the Berkus Report.
Good afternoon. This is David Friedman for Street Savvy Business on EyeOnBusiness. And I want to welcome Tyler Kelley to our show tonight. Tyler was the CEO, or still is the CEO and co-founder of a social media platform called Happinin. Welcome, Tyler. How are you?
Thanks, David. I'm doing well.
Good to hear it. All right, so tell me a little about yourself. You're a young guy. You're an entrepreneur.
Kind of young. Probably look younger than I am at this stage, but gray hairs are coming in.
Yeah, my shoes are older than you are. That's the way I look at things.
Right.
But tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. Why did you get into this entrepreneurial startup?
Yeah, actually, I'm an athlete at heart, and being in athletics, I always liked something that was fast-moving, that I had the ability to control and determine the outcome, and a tennis player, actually, so I like kind of being out there on my own. And as an entrepreneur, you definitely feel like you're on an island a lot of times, even if you do have co-founders, which I do. And that's how I kind of started into it is, after my playing days of tennis, I wanted to get in and do something on my own. And I started with the first business and kind of segued from there.
All right, you said you were in control, okay? Now, we're going to talk about control because what I really want to understand is what worked well and what didn't work well. And a lot of things went bump in the night. So tell me about Happinin. Briefly, what is Happinin?
Well, Happinin has taken 3 different iterations over the course of 3 years. So essentially what Happinin was originally was we were trying to show what was happening around nightlife establishments in your city. So you could see what was going on inside bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. And that then pivoted into what was happening around your college campus based on the demographic that we saw that was mostly using our platform. And now it has transitioned into campus tours and allowing for prospective college students to see what's really going on at the schools that they're thinking of applying to.
Cool. Okay, now let's quickly.
Did I get all that in there?
You got it. You got it in there.
Okay,
You're trying
perfect.
to get investors. Yeah. I still understand that.
Yeah, I'm still pitching. Is he still here? No.
So give me the 2 or 3 things that really went well. Pivoting is good, but what went well in terms of getting traction?
Traction. Well, it was interesting. Out of the things that really went well for us marketing-wise was keeping things, doing a lot of guerrilla tactics. So getting in people's face, making sure they're downloading our app, making sure we're able to clearly articulate our value propositions. There's so much noise out there using other social media, other marketing tactics, that are digital-based. It's very difficult to have anything stick. It doesn't necessarily scale as fast as you would want, or at least the way you're telling an investor. But at least that way, every user you get really understands what your business is, and you have a better chance for that user to share it to someone else.
Got it.
And that's really how you scale something is the shareability of it. That was definitely the most effective and it was the most efficient and cost-effective way that we scaled our 3 different iterations.
So let's look at the last iteration and look back upon the past. Okay. What I want you to do is let's talk to the audience about what went bump in the night. What are the 3 things that went bump in the night? And then as we look at each one, let's go back and see what you would have done differently. Because the real key issue is, what have you learned from the mistakes of the past?
Right. I really think it comes down to one thing. I don't think it comes down to 3. And it's something that, I heard multiple times before I jumped into this, and I still didn't listen until I got clubbed in the head with it. But focusing on the product and nothing else, before you even do a shred of marketing, focus on the product, utilize as many things as you can without building anything to get the validation that you need. And that is 100% the one thing that we got a little better at it as we went along, but still our process was never sound. We still had a broken process on how to go about building a great product, because I don't care how good your marketing is or how good anything else is. If you don't have a really awesome kick-ass product, nothing else is going to work.
Yeah, and I buy that. As a marketing and business guy, I always think marketing and business is great, but as a former engineer, the product has to be rock solid, stable.
Has to be.
But did you not listen to the advice? Were you? Was it? And I'm being very candid.
Yeah.
I'm being very blunt. Were you arrogant? Was your team arrogant, or you just didn't get it?
It's hard to listen to the advice because even when you are going through the process of trying to listen and be and go through that due diligence of trying to build a great product, you have a couple different ways to go about that, right? You have your own ideas, your own brainstorm sessions with your team. You can go and get validation from potential users, but then how much of that advice do you really listen to? Because a lot of times when you go up to people and ask them, hey, is this a good idea? They're going to say, oh yeah, it's a fantastic idea. But can you actually get them to be, a consistent user? Can you actually get that user to pay for your business?
Right.
Can you actually get that user to tell someone else how awesome your business is and get them to be a part of it? There's a lot of different things that go into building that great product. And even if you are listening to it and trying to be honest with yourself about what you're building, a lot of times you kind of get lost with what you should be listening to, what you shouldn't be. Sometimes it just comes down to, you either didn't have the right team, or the idea, it just really isn't something that you can put together and scale at the level that you want.
I'm going to jump on that one. Was it the
you
product or was it the team? When we look, I'm with Tech Coast Angels. When we look at something, we look at the product and we look at the management team. Which one was the break point?
I think definitely in the beginning our team was very new, and we did a lot of poor things in the beginning. But over the course of 3 years, I really think we matured as a team. We've been through the ups and downs, and we had validation whether we had won a couple pitch competitions.
Right.
We had talked to a lot of different investors that really liked our team and was just looking for more traction. And then we obviously were able to bring on users, but we just weren't able to get it to the point where we could scale it to a stage where an investor was willing to give us a lot of money. And it's sometimes just comes down to you miss a spot here or there, or you miss a cue here and there, and you can't recover.
All right, so I'm now a startup guy. I'm 25 years. I'm making this up, obviously.
You are.
But
You're looking at 25. Come on,
but I'm 25 years old. I'm starting a company.
Okay.
I want you to tell that person in 10 seconds or less, what would you do to be successful? What would you tell them? What would you tell me?
10 seconds or less. What I would first do is really think about what you want to do, and really, whether it's find that person that you really want to do it with, or really sit down and really understand how you're going to go about this process, and if the process you're about to create a product for has a true problem that you can get someone to pay for that service. If I've learned anything, is let's stop going down the road of trying to get 1 million users for free and just hope that we can build in some sort of native advertisement play. Am I allowed to say bullshit on the show? Probably not.
You already did.
Okay. At this stage, in my belief, through my experience, it's bullshit to think that we can just go and get 100,000 users or 1 million users and hope that we get investment. I think the better track to go is figure out a product that you can get revenue on day one.
Okay.
And if you can do that, then I would say that is the best advice I can give through my experience.
All right. So in sum, make sure you have a good product that works. Understand your customers to get that product to relate to that customer. Don't worry about trying to get 100 million eyeballs.
Right.
Get a product that works, get some revenue in. And the one thing you also mentioned was get a good team surrounding you, because that's going to be real critical as you march through some of these landmines. I appreciate you coming to visit us and sharing some of the insights. I think it's good advice for new entrepreneurs. This is David Friedman for Street Savvy Business on EyeOnBusiness.